Thank you so much for being here. I feel that this event, it's my first time here, but I feel that the industry evolves thanks to events like this. So it's very constructive. We are going to continue with a very interesting topic as other ones that we've seen. In this case, we're talking about leveraging and measuring location-based data for marketing. And with us, we have probably the most experts in the world, I would say, talking about location data, how it's leveraged for marketing and advertising, how it needs to be validated. We are going to start with Gayle Fuguitt from Foursquare. Then we'll go with Mandeep from Factual, Duncan McCall from PlaceIQ, and Alistair Goodman and Jeff Geard from Placecast and T-Mobile, respectively. Gayle.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Very delighted to be here. So what I'd like to do is suggest that we kind of change it up a little bit and talk about growth. Let's talk about geolocation measurement and how it's really the key to unlock growth. For the majority of my career at General Mills, we were targeting this elusive target of women 25 to 54. That was about 40% of all the households. We talked yesterday we've talked about Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z. We've talked about targeting groups of people. We've talked about targeting people based on affinities. But now today we have a very unique opportunity to target people in a very, very different way. And we can do it 24/7. But the problem is this is actually creating a dilemma for marketers. Because marketers actually have data indigestion. There's just too much of it to go around. And so we all have an opportunity to actually help sort this out for them, because they not only have data indigestion, but they also actually are struggling with precision and scale. They either have scaled solutions that aren't precise enough to give them a roadmap as to how to target their consumer, when to reach them, and how to deliver messaging that's great creative in context, or they have precision, but they don't have scale, and it's not actually projectable to better decision making. And we all know that marketers are really trying to make better decisions today, and they're all looking for metrics that make sense. So the real opportunity is to actually target consumers today using geodemographic solutions. And the important point that I really want to leave you with today is the importance of first-party data. Now, how many of you have been to a party that you maybe kind of weren't invited to? You go along, right? And how many of you have actually had someone come to a party and they weren't invited? We had that happen at our house once. It was pretty awkward. People were like, this woman's here, Gayle, at your party, and she doesn't actually know why you invited her. Well, I actually hadn't invited her. So that's just a really good illustration of the importance of first-party data and consumers opting in and actually inviting us, because this is a bond of trust. And at Foursquare, what we're able to do is utilize first-party data, and consumers opt in. It's a double opt-in, so they actually opt in once to say, yes, I want to invite you to know who I am and where I am and what my affinities are. But I also, taking advantage of stop detection and the fact that my mobile phone tells you when I stop somewhere and how long I stopped there, tells you that you may have walked by these various locations, but you didn't actually stop there, but you did stop at this particular coffee shop or at this particular cosmetic store, and then we're able to actually discern that that must be a place where a purchase actually took place. So here's Foursquare by the numbers. We've been around for 8 years. We have actually 11 billion check-ins. These are first-party check-ins, and they're off of our two apps, Foursquare and Swarm. It's a city guide, and it's a social networking solution. We have 93 million venues. We have 150 million in our addressable U.S. audience, and we have a 2 billion consumer panel in 2 million first-party data consumer panel, it would be nice if it was $2 billion in the US. And we have 11 million actually globally that we're able to access. What you may not know about Foursquare, and my counterparts Sven and Peter are going to talk about this afternoon a little bit greater detail, is that we actually have been chosen by 100,000 companies, including the ones you see pictured here that are quite well known, of course, Microsoft, Apple, Samsung, Uber, Airbnb, and many, many others. The thing that I was completely dazzled by when I looked at different opportunities upon leaving the ARF was actually the possibility to dimensionalize the full path to purchase for consumers. So think about the path to purchase today. Typically what you get is they walk in the store and then when the scanner rings, and that's the whole story, right? But you don't even know if they drove to the store. You don't know how they got there. You don't know where they go before or where they go after. And what we're able to do is actually share for a cosmetics company, for example, like Coty, that where consumers may be actually shopping in a Sephora, the place where they're actually making their purchases is maybe at a CVS or at another, at just the grocery store. And so that's very, very powerful for marketers and for retailers. So the real holy grail is to understand who audiences are, because today's audiences are actually aggregating themselves into targetable segments. To understand that based on behaviors, to understand consumers based on their affinities, their values, and their tastes, which we're able to discern through this geolocational information, because consumers are telling us, I went to this restaurant, I like this restaurant, I like this type of food, and then the algorithm is actually able to self-correct. And then we're also able to pinpoint target audiences based on location, but it's all privacy protected. And that's the very most important thing, is to understand first-party data, not second and third-party data, not stitching together different data sources, not cobbling our story together, but actually representing the consumer and bringing the consumer's needs to life to make better business decisions. Let's finally talk about the importance of truth, transparency, and trust, and not breaking that bond of trust with today's marketers and with the marketers and having a clean supply chain, but also with consumers. It's the most sacrosanct relationship that we have, and that's what all of us share. As far as transparency, it's really this idea of consumers opting in, but as well, it's very important for us to build trust with certification, and the panel just before this talked about the importance of the MRC and certification and gathering ourselves together in these industry groups. So we all have the opportunity to change the narrative and change the marketing narrative, but also to change the leadership narrative. I think it's important that we act, we don't react. It's very critically important that we choose our partners wisely. We've had a really great discussion about that yesterday, and you have the great honor of being able to hear from my counterparts here who are the world's smartest people. I've only been at Foursquare 4 months, so you're going to prepare to be dazzled. We have an opportunity to set up our organizations to assimilate all these insights, and that's going to take different job descriptions and different organizational structures, and we really need to step up. And then finally, invest, collaborate, experiment, and do. So I'm going to turn it back over for the next speaker.